Hello, everyone. We are live. So I am very excited to introduce our guest for today. So I am interviewing today Kate Westwood. She is not only a musician and songwriter in her own right, but she is also owner and founder of Westwood Management. She is a presenter and author for 89.9 The Light FM in Melbourne. And we're going to be talking everything songwriting today. So I know it's going to be a very interesting information-filled session for you. So I will bring Kate Westwood in right now. Hello, Kate.
Hello. I was just sharing the screen. That's what you do. Yeah.
How's your day been today?
Yeah. I just have had a chill morning. I go to church, so I listened to the online church stream this morning, had a shower, I've done some laundry, all those important things. Got dressed out of my pajamas, important things on a Sunday.
Very productive day.
But I'm so stoked to be here and to it's like my debut on Sounds of the Couch. It's very, very exciting.
Very excited to have you here too.
Everyone. Yeah.
Well, we'll just jump straight in. So I guess we'll start with, what first ignited your passion for music? What got you into music in the first place?
Well, if we go back to when I was 3 years old, my first performance, I think I sang at a baptism or something when I was 3. My mum was a singer. She played guitar and piano. So we grew up as, a pretty musical household. And I played in bands in high school. I've always kind of loved to sing and been writing since I was about 13 or 14, playing guitar. And then, sang in church a lot. And music's been a part of my life for a long time. I don't think I ever really dived deep into the whole thing of being an artist until the last couple of years. But yeah, I've always loved music, and you could find me singing at any given time of the day, much to everyone's delight or dismay, I don't know. But I primarily am a singer and a songwriter, and so I love listening to music, and I love playing and being a part of it. So
Fantastic. So I guess let's talk about a little bit who Kate Westwood is in everyday life.
Sure. Well, I live in a house with some housemates and a cool cat, Fonzie, who keeps me entertained. I'm a radio host on the weekends for 89.9 The Light, which is a joy to be a part of such a cool organisation here in Melbourne, providing positivity and hope in a really difficult time. So if you never listen to The Light, you should head over to 89.9. I'm an auntie. I've got 5 nephews and nieces. I would call myself an average gardener because I kill as much as things die as much as they grow. I'm a book and movie lover. I love reading and I love watching movies. I'm a business owner as well now, I could say, and someone who's passionate about music. I've also been to something like 29 countries, so I've traveled a lot, and so I'm so keen to go overseas again. Who knows when that will happen, but I've definitely loved the world, and I love cultures and different people, different nationalities. There's so much we can learn by getting out and about, and I guess here in Melbourne you can do that anyway because there's so many nationalities represented. It's a little bit about me. Yeah.
So when you're able to travel again, what's the first country you're going to visit?
I probably will go back to see my parents who live in Scotland, and it's been a couple of years since I've been there. They normally come out for Christmas, but there's that. And then I always say New York because I love New York. And, if I joke that if I could get a job there, I'm pretty sure I'd move. I don't know. It's an amazing place. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Is that related to your music, the New York passion?
No, it's because I fell in love with New York in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Don't know why, but it just was always my favorite Christmas movie. And I'd always wanted to go just in movies, seen all that kind of stuff. And when I went in 2012 for the first time, it just was like over and above my expectations. I had an amazing time, and I didn't even get to see everything I wanted. So I've been back a couple of times since. And I don't know, something about it that's just a bit magical. So
can you we've spoken a little bit about what you do, but would you be able to let our audience know what you do for for your work?
Yeah, so probably just under 2 years ago, I quit my day job and my desk job, and I decided to start a business called Westwood Management. So I studied entertainment management at uni, and at the same time as doing my first album. And in that space, I realized that there was some help needed for emerging artists. And so I decided I wanted to be that change that I wanted to see. So started Westwood Management, and it's slightly a non-traditional management company where I work with artists, but rather than on commission basis, we work on a monthly fee. And that means that I can help people that other managers wouldn't even look at because they're not making any money. So we do management, coaching, training, and resources. And really my heart and desire is to give confidence and clarity for artists to know how to move forward and then to believe that they can. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Within that, with a normal management system, what would they normally be looking at for artists?
From what I know and heard, I'm not the massivest expert in this space, but usually, first of all, they're looking for a sense of talent and a sense of, I love this music. I can envisage something. So when Scooter Braun saw Justin Bieber on YouTube, he got a vision of something that Justin Bieber could be. And so the story is that he called every high school in Canada until he found the school that Justin Bieber went to, and then he was able to make contact. And this was even before Scooter Braun even had any really money, but he saw a vision and he said, I want to be a part of that. And so most managers, I think it'll be a mixture of that, but also, do they have the capacity for them to make money? Because managers work on percentage. So if it's someone at the really baby start of their career, they're not making it, they haven't got any music out, they're not gigging, there's no income from their career. So usually that equals that they're not ready yet. So managers would be looking for some of those two different things. Yeah. I'm sure there's more, but that would be two that I would think of.
You did mention that a big part of you starting up Westwood Management was about your experience as a musician as well. So what has your experience been in terms of developing your own career as a musician?
I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, I have been singing and playing for a long time. I've even been writing for a long time, but I'm a strong and independent woman, and I kind of had this belief that to be a good songwriter, to be a good artist, I have to be able to do everything myself. If if my song needs help, or I don't know what to do here and I have to ask for assistance, that means I'm not a good songwriter and the song wasn't good because I need help. A weird belief, and sounds so strange when I say it now, but I definitely believe that. And so I didn't share my songs with people really until they were done. I wasn't open for feedback. And often in my writing, I would get stuck. I kind of hit the limit of my experience, my musical experience. I'd get stuck about how to move forward. And so then I would give up. And so all of those things really meant that I didn't really move forward in terms of being an artist and a writer. And I did a songwriting course, and I had this revelation that this is what I believe. And then I said, well, I want to change that. So I started collaborating. And then I had all these songs, found a producer who wanted to work with me and made an album. But I had no idea what I was doing, which, to be honest, is the case for most of us, because we're having to try and navigate an industry without a map, without any experience, and usually without many people around us who've done it before. And even though I had some friends who have released and recorded before, my producer was great. I could even ask him a bunch of questions, but there were things he didn't maybe think to tell me, or he didn't know to tell me. So I remember the date in which I was getting ready to get the masters back to send to the distributor, then I realized that actually, if we don't do it on this date, it may not be ready for release date. And I was freaking out because it was only 4 weeks out. And I was like, I didn't realize I had to do this. So it was just, there were so many stressful moments. And I probably spent 4 months where I didn't watch TV. I would get home from work and I'd spend 3 to 5 hours on the computer doing online courses, working on my website, trying to figure out how to navigate this industry. What the heck am I supposed to do? I relished that and I enjoyed that because I love learning, and the why is really important for me. But it was really challenging, and I made a lot of mistakes. I spent probably way too many hours doing too many things on my own, and so even though I had great response from the album, I didn't really know anything about marketing or PR at that point. So I had a lot of community around me who love it, and I still get texts, usually probably once a week from someone saying, "Oh, Kate, I was listening to your song in the car. It really blessed me again today," or your album on repeat got me through a really hard week. And I was like, oh, that's why we do it, because it's not so much about the money. But I definitely didn't make the money back that I put into it. So it was a great experience because I learned so much, but I also realized how overwhelming it can be and how little support there is for emerging artists. So I say emerging, if people who haven't yet broken to that point of profit and of being kind of seen. Doesn't mean ARIA award status, but just, having the sense of where you get people coming out to your shows and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been a good experience, but one that's definitely been very challenging.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a huge learning experience. I have a question in regards to earlier you were saying that you didn't have the belief at the start that your music was something to share. What was it that turned that around for you to make you start thinking differently, that you were willing to share what you had?
Well, it's a good question. I have a belief that, we can't change something if we don't know that we need to change it. If we don't know something's broken, then we don't know that we should fix it. And so, in leadership development or different spaces, if you don't know what you don't know, you can't make a change. But as soon as you realize, oh, there's a hole in my tire, okay, now I know that I need to fix it. And if I don't know how to fix it, then I find out how to fix it. And that's where the shift and change comes for anyone, is when you realize what you don't know, then you have a choice. I'm going to keep going with how it was, or I can make a change. And so for me, I had just kept living in this space of I don't know what I don't know. And so I just kept getting stuck and frustrated in that space in terms of writing. So I did a songwriting course, and it was kind of I'll just sit around. I wasn't really, that involved and developed. And there was at one point where I shared a song in the group, and I got some feedback. And in my mind, I was like, who is he to tell me what's good or not good? And I realized this kind of ugly pride, like kind of rose up. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that was my response. And so being a part of the Songwriting Challenge, recognizing that now I've realized that there's something that I don't know that maybe I need to change, that was really the shift for me. And I had that revelation that I felt like I had to do everything myself to be good, rather than recognizing that help and support and collaboration was like a way better good than doing it on your own. So that was really the shift for me. And things have really, gone really well since then, I think. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And I think that will be so valuable for so many people to hear, because I think a lot of people think in that way as well. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us a little bit about what Westwood Management does or what you do for your clients within Westwood Management?
Sure, absolutely. Well, there are kind of 3 levels of what I do. The first one is really kind of connected to my Facebook and my email list. So every week I provide free training resources. There's a Facebook Live every week where I'm really trying to unpack the industry and tips and tricks and secrets that I just don't think should be secrets, because I really believe that information should be shared, and that there's lots of simple things that people can be doing to build their music career. And primarily what I help artists do at all levels is to understand that if they want to make any money from their music, whether it's just as a hobby level or if it's a full-time, job that they want to, get paid full-time for it, it means that they're essentially wanting to run a business. So helping to understand how to set up that as a really good foundation, and what does it mean to be in business. And most creators, I just want to play music, mate. Well, that's great. But if you want to play music and make money, then you have to think like a business, or you have to pay someone to do that for you. So it's just helping people to understand and navigate through a lot of beliefs and a lot of ideas. So there's heaps of free stuff on my email list and on my Facebook. Every Tuesday I do a Facebook Live where I interview people and we talk about current events and talk about what they're doing. So that's been really great. And then I have an online course called the Virtual Music Manager that is a monthly membership, and there's heaps of training and resources and like literally courses about social media, email list, releasing an album, music marketing, all that kind of stuff. But then it also comes with an hour of coaching a month. So it's information combined with real personalized support. So that's called the Virtual Music Manager, and anyone can access that. And then I have 7 artists at the moment that I work with on a more intensive basis, anywhere between 4 to 8 hours a month. And it's, really tailored to what they need. And so it's coaching, it's management. And then often I'll write emails, or I'll contact people, or I'll be setting up a Facebook ad, or I'll be, doing whatever is needed practically for that person. But in a monthly fee space rather than a percentage base, which is more traditional management. So yeah, the 3 levels of what I do. Yeah,
it's very hands-on. Do you find that often clients come in with a very different expectation of you?
I mean, I think in the first probably 6 to 8 months, there were people that we started engaging with, and probably who had an unconscious expectation. So we talked about the fact that generally what I don't do is get you gigs, that I help show you how to do that really well. So then you do it and then you keep all the money. So I don't take, so I'm empowering you to really grab hold of your business and know how to manage it well. But then unconscious expectations around, but I just kind of wanted someone to do it all for me. And yeah, but we talked about how that's not what I work. Yeah, but I realized that that's really what usually it's the unconscious expectations, the ones that we didn't realize we had until they weren't met. They're the hardest ones to deal with. But what I realize is that you just have to talk out again, be open about it. And then the great thing about how I've decided to work is it's not a contract. Now we're locked in together and it's hard to get out of it. It's just a month by month. Everything I do is month by month. And so if my artists on the Virtual Music Manager or my Westwood Management artists say, Kate, I don't have enough money this month, or I've decided to move to Ecuador, which just happened with one girl, or, for whatever reason, they want to finish up our partnership, that's totally fine. So it's not locked in. And so, yeah, I really wanted to provide something different. But really, the reality is that your music as an artist is not going to be for everyone. So not every person out there is going to be a fan. And so my business isn't also for everyone. There are some people who were right at the right time and that kind of thing. So that's totally okay. But I try to talk through those expectations at the beginning. And also the artists are developing, we're figuring stuff out as we go. And I think the more that you're willing to do that together, the more everyone benefits and grows.
Yeah, absolutely. If someone did want to get in touch with you in terms of the Virtual Music Manager or in terms of your one-on-one, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. It's just at Westwood Management. And the Virtual Music Manager actually I only open it up for new members twice a year. So that's happening on the 25th of August. So if you jump on any of my social media pages, you'll see a wait list there. It's essentially virtualmusicmanager.com/waitlist, and you can register for the wait list and then you'll find out all about it. But I'll be sharing it anywhere on the socials. And then, so anyone can join the Virtual Music Manager, but I only really have 10 spots. I only have 3 spots left in my artist roster just because it's more intensive. So I usually reach out to people, or we have a one-on-one chat, and then I decide whether I feel like that we're right to work together. So that's a little bit more exclusive is the wrong word. What's another word for exclusive? Targeted, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, check me out on Westwood Management on socials. And also virtualmusicmanager.com/waitlist.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So I know we've spoken a little bit about how you've got a huge passion for songwriting. What's your personal creative process within the songwriting process?
Ooh, good question. Personally, I am a lyricist, and so usually I'll get lyrics and melody at the same time in my head. So I'll be out somewhere, or I'll be listening to some music or something, or usually when I'm trying to sleep at 11 o'clock at night, my brain stops thinking and then starts thinking about music, and I'll hear lyrics and melody in my head, and then I'll usually write it out, or I'll get my glorious voice memo out. I'll just while I'm asleep, record it on my phone, and then usually go back in the day and the next day or so, and grab my guitar, or very simple on the piano, and then I'll just start to explore that. But primarily I start with lyrics and melody, and usually that's my focus. So my focus is having really strong lyrics, telling a really clear story, having just one theme and keeping it really concise, and then having really beautiful, memorable melodies. So I really work hard on that. And then usually I'll just throw some chords in underneath it to make it work. And then I'll record a voice memo of the whole thing, write down all the lyrics and the chords. And then usually what I'll do is I'll show it to one or two people that I have connection with, and I'll ask for feedback on it. And then sometimes that will equal in a little bit of co-writing, where they're like, oh, I've got some ideas. Yeah, let's work on it, depending on how complete the song was. But I generally have a rule for myself that I don't finish a song or record a song unless it's gone through that process of feedback and collaboration, and then reworking at least twice, because I want the song to be the best it can be. And talking about my history, I tried to do it all myself, and I would hit a limit of what I knew and could understand. And I've really learned that the song has the opportunity to be the best and the fullest and most complete if there's been other ideas and eyes and hands in the pie, kind of thing. So yeah, that's a bit of my process.
Fantastic. And how do you choose those people that you go to for feedback?
Great question. That's definitely a challenging one if you've never done that. I was talking to a lovely guy named Daniel from New Zealand yesterday, and he was like, but I just don't know who's around me. I don't know how to find. That's probably the most challenging thing. I have 4 to 8 people right now that I could call, and I could set up a session tomorrow, because I've lumped myself in with a creative community. I've built relationship with people over the last couple of years. And so it's easy to choose that because I have that. So it's not like every writing session I do, it's a new person. Usually it's those 4 to 8 people. Sometimes it's in a writing retreat with 4 to 8 people, and sometimes it's just on the Zoom with Renee or Jared or Anna or Ali, people who are already in my life, and we have a songwriting relationship together. But that's because I've built that over the last 1 to 2 years. So it's easy to choose. I would like to keep writing and keep finding new people, but that would be really challenging to do that every time I wrote. So it's really wonderful to build some great relationships and then just keep doing it with them. So if there are people out there listening, and that you might be like Daniel and you feel like, but where do I go? You just have to start somewhere. And if I tell the story of my friend Renee, we had met but we'd never written together, and I knew that she wrote, and I went over to her house, and we had big plans, and it was a bit of a disaster. It was like, it was a bit awkward and nothing really came out of it, and we were like, okay, cool, that was great. And then we left, but I was like, nah, we're doing it again. And so I brought my guitar over, and I brought a bottle of wine, and the next 2 times we wrote together, we didn't write anything. We didn't get the music out. We just drank wine, and we talked, and we got to know one another. And now when we write, in 2 hours, we'll have a full song. Yeah. Because I have a personal belief that I think creativity flourishes in a place of safety. If you feel known, if you feel safe, if you feel valued, then you're going to share your ideas. You're going to be, oh, but what about this? Or no, I'm not sure. You're not going to be second guessing yourself. You're not going to be insecure. And so if you can take that time, however you're doing it, whoever it is, just find someone who writes and just go. Don't try and write the first time. Just say hello and get to know them and build a place of safety and being known first. And then I think creativity will flourish out of that space. So,
yeah, I think that's so important. I've got a question here as well from Rebecca Lynch-Wells. She's asked, how many hours would an artist want to be be expected to dedicate their time towards their artistry, especially if they expect to be working or studying full-time otherwise?
I mean, it really depends on what they want to achieve, Beck, and also what you're doing in that time. So if I use the example, when I was creating my album, I worked full time and I would come home, have dinner, and then I would spend 2 to 4 hours every night. So I didn't watch TV. So from like 7 to 10 o'clock every night, I would be on the computer, working on the lyrics or organizing the photographer, or, so I spent probably 15 hours a week in that period of time when I was doing my album. That was a lot, but also there was probably a lot of wasted time, because I was Googling, what is an online distributor? How do I find a producer? There are like intensely time wasting searches, and also doing a website yourself is like a black hole of time as well. So I would think probably 2 to 10 hours a week. And really that depends on whether it's about just the practice, whether it's about you learning about what it means to be in business. So if you're really, 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 really serious about it, I would think you need to do a day a week, and whether that's full 8 hours or it's 2 hours a night, because essentially you need to study yourself, your career, your audience, what's happening in the industry, what it means to be a business person, looking for other creative partners and businesses out there who can support you, rather than just hoping and waiting for a lightning bolt of something magical like winning the lottery. You have to work at it. So that would be my recommendation. If you're serious about it, probably around 8 hours a week. Yeah. And that could include, songwriting or rehearsal or practicing your craft as well. But yeah.
Fantastic. And if anyone else has any questions, please make sure that you pop them in the chat box as well, and we'll answer them as best that we can. So I guess, do you have a favorite song that you admire the artfulness of the creation of that song? Could be any song in history.
Yeah, look, you have you asked me that question, and my answer was not really. If I think about it, I remember watching Bohemian Rhapsody, that movie, and seeing how Freddie Mercury and the guys did really push the boundaries on essentially that song, Bohemian Rhapsody. That's what it's called, right? Yeah. Mamma Mia. Yeah. Lost the name of it. But because that is not a typical song. It goes for 7 or 8 minutes. It's very strange. It's very different. And I liked, probably, if I was to say, I like that they pushed the boundaries and that they knew who they were as artists. They knew what they wanted to achieve, and they stuck to that. And that's not something that we can all do, but I really do like that. I think I probably should spend a bit more time on the songs that I love and looking at if there's information out there about the background of them. I definitely have some favorite writers. 2 of them that come to mind are John Foreman from the band Switchfoot and Ryan Tedder from One Republic. They're my 2 go-to songwriting crushes. I just think those guys are amazing, and I love how diverse, and I'm always inspired when I listen to them. I'm like, Kate, you've got to write more, because they just have a way of telling a story, and the lyrics and the melody just are amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you feel that anybody can write music, or do you feel that it's something that some people are just born with a better ability to get that out?
I mean, the answer is yes to both of those. That songwriting especially is a skill that anyone can learn. Yeah. So nobody comes out of the womb with already knowing how to do complex algorithmic sums, and mathematical kind of thing. We learn how to do that. Some of us have a predisposition to a certain sense of intelligence. Some people have, like my brother is amazing at sports. He can pick up any instrument, any ball. He can play any sport. He's amazing. Whereas I fumble around and it doesn't come naturally. So there absolutely is a musical intelligence where people just get it, their brains get it, they understand it, it makes sense to them, they can play any instrument, they pick up the violin and in 10 minutes it's not sounding terrible. so there's a whole sphere of different types of intelligences, not just book learning, but, spatial and emotional intelligence, musical intelligence, kinesthetic, all that kind of stuff. So yes, we all, some people have a predisposition to being more intelligent in that way, but songwriting is a skill that anyone can learn. And there are some really key principles and formulas that if you follow, you can create, a good song, one that, has a sense of structure, that fits together, that tells a story. And so I think that anyone can write a song. You don't necessarily have to have heaps of musical skill. And I think it's great to give it a go. One of the things that I see a lot is that people, I have this creative skill. Great. How can I become famous with it? Or how can I use it to make money? And that saddens me a little bit, that creativity in this digital world that we're in, or just because you're good at something, that means now it needs to be exploited in that sense, rather than just creativity for creativity's sake. And so if you're just learning to write songs, just do it for the love and the joy of creating something. If you like to dance, it doesn't mean you have to be a famous dancer. If you like to sing or paint, it doesn't mean you have to sell them or you have to go on and win awards and songwriting competitions and all that kind of stuff. Just start by getting a love for that, the process of creating. And I think if we can keep that value, I just love to create and I love to tell a story, rather than it always having to be for a purpose. I think that's something that's a little bit lost. I kind of went on a bit of a tangent there, but
So do you find that from your experience that when musicians do sort of go down that path where they're trying to make money out of that skill, that it can often take away from what they're trying to produce?
Yeah, I think it definitely can. And I think sometimes it can sour their view of the industry, because they're a creative and they're trying to make money out of that creative, but they're not also a business person. So they are approaching that with a creative mindset rather than a business mindset. And so then it's frustrating but I'm doing all this stuff and I've got all these great songs, but no one's hearing me and I can't build my audience. And now I'm really jaded at the industry because it never gave me my break or gave me the chance, or I've worked harder, I'm more talented than those other people, but they got that opportunity that I didn't get. And that's really sad. And I feel for them, but it's also the reality of this industry is that there's no line. It doesn't work on merit. So I use the example of I did my album because I wanted to tell a story, and primarily I wanted to tick that box that this is a big life goal that I had. The goal wasn't to be famous or to make a certain amount of money. The goal was to actually write these songs, release and record and release it and go, yes, I finally did this. And then there's more things that have emerged out of that in terms of, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that, but that's not the original purpose of it. And I think creativity should be for creativity's sake. And then as we grow and we find that this is actually what I'm called to, it's not just something I can do, but something I feel that call to do, that's when you should start to pursue in that area.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So if somebody's looking to create that first song, so they've never gone out and taken it seriously, what are some places that they can look for ideas to sort of develop that creativity and get things started?
Well, practically nature is one of the best places to go out and just go for a walk and look for inspiration, look for something that stands out to you. It could be, a fallen branch. It could be a butterfly. It could be a cloud in the sky, or it could be dark clouds. There's a million things that you could see in nature, a bird building a nest, and just allow yourself to then, there's, the word meditate. Okay, well, what does that mean to me? What's come out of that? What's the story that I'm getting out of that? And that's the thing about art, is that everybody sees different things in a painting, it means something differently. And so we could both look at the same thing and get a different meaning out of it. And so allowing yourself to then write down, okay, I saw that bird building that nest, and this is, it's like a mother taking care of her kids but working hard to develop, and maybe it's not going to last. Maybe in a couple of weeks it'll fall apart, or and so then you start to allow yourself to explore the concept.
Yeah.
And then I encourage people, if they're not a lyricist, but just to kind of write it down like a diary entry, write down what you were thinking, and then pick out lines that stand out to you, and then start to form it together in a traditional kind of verse chorus structure, and then sing it out. I mean, it's really hard to tell people how to go about it, because I have a particular way about writing songs. But there's inspiration everywhere, even in the injustices that we feel. One of my artists, Carmen Majido, she wrote a song called Houses on Fire. She wrote it kind of middle of last year, and then was recording it right around when all the fires happened here in Australia at the end of last year. And it was around climate change, but then it really fit together with that whole thing of the literally on fire. And so she wrote because she has this passion for climate change awareness, and that's a cause that's really close to her heart. So she wanted to write a song about, guys, did you know the house is on fire? We've got to talk about it. And so finding the things that have meaning to you and creating something around that is a really good place to start.
Yeah, excellent. So if you're somebody who you've got this great idea and you've been inspired, and you know what you want to say, but maybe you're not so natural at putting those lyrics together in that kind of poetic sense, is there a way that somebody can develop that further?
Yeah, I think there's two options there. The first one is that you go and you just write a bad song. The first point is you just do your absolute best with what you already have, and you write a bad song. And that's everybody's beginning of their songwriting journey. So the first painting you do as a child, is they're bad, they're finger painting there. It doesn't make sense, but that's okay. You grow and you learn and you develop. And really at this point, if you're just starting in your songwriting journey, it's going to be about quantity over quality. So you just got to start writing, and you've got to write every week, and you've got to just write to the best of your ability, what you can do, even if it's terrible, even if it's the cheesiest song ever, even if it's all of the cliche lyrics and it just has 3 chords. Just write a song, and then the more that you do it, the more it will grow and develop. The second part of that is doing what you know, and then finding someone to fill the gaps. So for me, I write lyrics and I do melody. I'm great at those, but the music side, so like putting the right chords or figuring out all the production stuff, that's not where I just learned to play guitar so that I could put chords to my songs. But I have a friend who was like, "Oh, Kate, you could do like an E minor 4 diminished here," and then and I'm just like, I don't know what that is. Can you write that down for me? Like, I don't know. I don't know how to play that. I just know how to sing it. And so I will often go to him and say, Jared, what would you recommend? How could we make this more interesting? And often I'll get, suggestions or different things around the chords underneath. And so really what I'm doing is I'm finding someone who is great at what I'm not great at. And so when you add those things together, you get a bigger and a fuller picture or you get a complete package. Yeah.
Fantastic. And that brings us a little bit more to the collaboration sort of side. So how often do you think that artists should be collaborating when writing their songs?
Oh, you're going to get me started on something exciting. I talked already about the fact that I don't call a song finished, and I definitely don't record a song. It's like a personal standard unless I've had at least 2 people look at it, give me feedback, and then I've gone and I've reworked and I've really taken that feedback and said, okay, could this make this better? Could this develop this? I use the example of I want it to be really well cooked. So it's like a cake that looks great on the outside, but then when you look at the inside, it's still stodgy. You put the cake tester in. That's not a well-cooked song. It looks fine on the outside, but when you really then go into it, it's not complete. And so collaboration, feedback, and co-writing are the best ways to make sure that your cake is cooked really well in the middle and not just on the outside. I personally am hoping that working towards at least half of my songs being co-writes, and I'd like at least one of my songs for my next album to be a song that I gather from songwriters that I know, that maybe I don't even have a hand in, but I've just said, I've taken submissions. Great. That one is awesome. I want to do that one. So essentially a lot of artists, professional artists do that. Rihanna often doesn't write her songs. Adele, Celine Dion, so many don't actually write songs. They just sing other people's songs. So I think that it should be part of, if you want to be a songwriter and if you are an artist who's serious about this, you want to be collaborating. And another question that you gave me was the benefits. So I can move on to that. I mean, there are so many benefits to collaborating and co-writing. Everybody gets an opportunity to learn. You get to hear from somebody else's perspective on a story or on how they write. It grows everyone's ability to understand about the craft of songwriting. You also get to support another creative business. If we write a song together, Karen, then if I record that, you then get a percentage of that copyright revenue. So it benefits you. We write together, we support one another. Then also, the more people who are involved in a project, the more opportunity you have to network. And when you release a song and you do that, it's like now there are 10 people who are going to share about it because they were involved in it. And it also is really going to help you grow as a songwriter, I really believe. Not necessarily being the best at everything, but because you get to see and hear from other perspectives. And there is a difference, though, if I go into it, between feedback and collaboration and co-writing. And I often get, if someone said, if I go to someone and they give me feedback on a song and then I use that idea, does that mean they own part of the song? So I think we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but feedback is not songwriting. And criticism and constructive criticism is not songwriting. It's only when you use the actual words or the actual melody that they've given and you put that direct thing as a part of the song, that's where it would be a co-write. If someone says, you could change the verse to be the chorus, that's an idea. Cool. All right, I'm going to switch that around. But if I do that, the idea is not what's copyrightable, it's the action that's copyrightable. So
that's the official definition.
Yeah. And yeah, I'll let you. I could keep going. Did that answer?
Is there a difference between collaboration and co-writing?
I think they're a little bit same, different. So collaboration often can be around, maybe there's a producer who's got a song and I just sing on it. And so I'm not, so one of my artists, Alexis, has just done a trance song with a guy named Jordan. And so she didn't really write the song, but she is collaborating with them on a project. So she's bringing her skills and her tools to that project. I think that there is some agreement there. It really depends on what you decide, but if you're lending your voice or your musicianship to something, that's usually where it's around collaboration. Co-writing is really specifically around, we sit down together to write a song, whether it's from scratch or one that is in flux and you're developing it, and there's an agreement that we're both writing this song together. And yeah, you just need to be really clear. And I think collaborating can mean that same thing as well, but it's very different from getting feedback. And I think wanting to separate those two, that collaborating and co-writing and feedback and criticism, they're very different. Yeah.
So you'd say that communicating what the intention is at the start is very important before you begin either process.
Yeah.
What do you think are the biggest obstacles that musicians need to take into account when looking at co-writing?
Yeah. I think very often as a songwriter, and when we go into a co-writing thing, it's really hard to not take it personally. It's really hard to treat somebody else's feedback. And that's probably one reason why I didn't do this for a long time, is it was my song, and who's someone to tell me that my song isn't good? And there was a lot of pride, and it was very personal because this is my baby that I created, and be careful with that baby. No, this is just a piece of work that has the opportunity to grow and develop. And professional songwriters who are writing 5 to 20 songs a day, they're not treating every song like a baby. It's just something that they've created for a purpose, and they don't take it as personally. And that's really hard to do when you're first starting out. But the more that you write, the less personal, the less of yourself is, and your worth and your value is tied up in whether someone likes the song or not. So being able to move past that. And I think the only way you do that is by doing a lot of collaborating and co-writing. And so that's one thing. Definitely not communicating at the beginning of a co-writing session about what the intention is, what the goal is, or having a belief that just because we wrote a song, now it has to go somewhere. That's not true. 90% of the songs that you write probably aren't going to go anywhere. Chris Martin talks about that in a great documentary, Head Full of Dreams. I think it's on Amazon Prime. Such a great documentary, and talks about songwriting so much from Coldplay. And he says that, only 10% of the songs that I write, I even bring to the team. And so he's the genius at songwriting. So there's 90 out of every 100 songs don't go anywhere. You think, what the heck? If Chris Martin's going to do that, that means that we need to do that as well.
Yeah, which often I guess we don't even think about, that, these stars are, they have songs that don't get out there.
Yeah.
There's been another question by Rebecca Lynch-Wells asking about what about writing parts for other instruments? So I think that she's talking about the involvement of other instruments going into a song. Yeah, so I think in terms of, I probably don't know heaps about this area because I'm primarily a lyricist and do melody. I'm not a musician, and I don't compose for film or TV or things like that. So if you're writing a song, a composition, whether it's the lyrics or the melody, if I just go from my perspective, I had artists musicians who played on my album, and some of them figured out a bit of a riff on the piano or had a little thing going on the guitar or the bass line. And so my producer and them would figure that out. That, to be honest, that is just part of what their contribution as a musician to the song, and I paid them for that. It doesn't equal part of composition for the song. So that's them doing their job, playing the notes, whether you're writing what you want the violin to do, because that's not the song. And we'll get into this in a minute, actually, what is copyrightable and what's not. That's the musicality. And you can't copyright a chord progression or an arrangement, only the lyrics and the melody. So it is quite a challenging area when we really go into that. So Rebecca, I feel like I've massacred this question. It's really hard in terms of the context. That was really useful. Yeah. Message me if you want to know more. We can figure it out together. So I guess that's a good point to sort of jump into the copyright splits and how all that works. So once an artist has co-written a song and it's gone out to market, how do ownerships and royalties work between the different parties? I get excited about this. And I did a little bit of research today just to get some documents. There's heaps of great stuff on artslaw.com.au and the APRA AMCOS website. So if you want to know more about this, you really should. If this is something that you're focused on as an artist, you want to be a writer, you really do need to understand your rights as a writer and what it includes in that. So my recommendation is, before you go into any songwriting session and also at the end, that you would determine with everyone. So let's say I get in a room with myself and my friend Renee, I've already talked about, and we would say, all right, Renee, we're really happy to do 50-50. Awesome. Okay, great. So we've decided that no matter what we write and no matter who writes what in this session, we're going to split the difference. We're both going to own 50% of the copyright. And this is what they call the Nashville standard. So it's an industry standard that whoever's in the room and contributes to the song, whether they only contribute one line or whether they write the whole melody for a verse or
whatever it is, that everyone who contributes to the lyric or the melody and part of the song in that session, who's in the room, who's contributing to it, then they get a full split of the song. And what that does is that just makes everyone feel good, that everyone's contributing, and it doesn't prioritize one person over the other. For the example, that as we go into this, that the actual what things can actually be copyrighted are only the lyrics and the melody. There's nothing else in a song that's copyrightable. And people might go, oh, but what about my drum solo? What about the beats that I made? What about the guitar riff? What about the chord progression or the arrangement? Nope, none of that is copyrightable. If you were to copyright a chord progression, that means that only one song could ever use that chord progression. And that is just not true. So if you look up Axis, the Axis of Awesome on YouTube, one of my favorite YouTube clips, in like 5 minutes, they play like 40 or 50 different songs, all on the same chord progression, one after the other. And so chords are not copyrighted. If you decide, well, it's going to be E, A, B sharp minus C sharp, you still don't own any of the song because you can't copyright the lyrics. So the guitarist who figures out the chords of the song actually legitimately doesn't own any of the song. Wow. If I wrote, like Renee does all the piano bit and she figures out the chords and I do the lyrics and the melody, officially I own 100%. But because of the Nashville standard and how we've agreed, because we're writing it together, we now own 50% each because we've decided that that's how we're going to run it. And that makes everyone happy to write songs together. And we're not nitpicking over, well, I wrote 12 lines and you only wrote 4, so you should only get 5%, and then I get like, ugh, that's horrible. No one wants to engage in that kind of relationship. So, absolutely. Yes. It is a very complex issue and it's confusing. And I even had a question from a friend of mine, Jessie, the other day about if I'm writing for somebody else, should I charge them a fee? And we were talking about what that would equal and a lot of different things. But my biggest thing at the beginning, just say, are we all happy to do an even split? There's 3 people in the room, 33% everyone, no matter what people contribute. And then at the end, let's say you agreed that at the beginning and then halfway through someone left and never came back. Then at the end you would say, well, Susie, you contributed this much, but actually we're thinking you only get 15% because you were only there for half the time. Okay, that's fine. So you have an agreement at the beginning, at the end, and then you sign a simple contract, a simple agreement saying Susie owns 15%, Kate owns, what's the rest of that? 75, 85. Kate owns 42.5 and Renee owns 42.5, and that's the ownership of the song. Yeah.
Are there contracts available that people can access, or is it something that they can generally go and write up themselves and agree between each other?
For just really basic thing, just, fill out the ownership of this song, blah, 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 written on this day. This is the split, and just do a simple document, print it out. Everyone signs it and has a copy of it. But you can go to artslaw.com.au, and I think even on APRA, they might have a few examples of things that you can do there. It's really about just everyone being in agreement and that being in writing. Doesn't have to be a really fancy, lawyer document, but that's always helpful. But you just want to have something in writing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. With this law, is that the same across different countries, or does that vary from country to country?
Sure. The rule across the world is that copyright begins as soon as you write down your idea. So you don't just write the idea of, I'm going to write a song about this. That's not it. When you actually write the lyrics and you record the music, that's when, and that can just be, again, written down or recorded on your phone. That's when that song now has a copyright. You now own that song. In Australia, I'm just writing it down. You don't need to register it. As soon as you've written down or recorded your intellectual property, your music, your lyrics or your melody, it is copyrighted. There are some countries where you do need to register that copyright. Like in America, there are a few places where you actually have to go and register. So it's like a patent or a trademark thing. You're just essentially saying, this is my melody, this is my lyrics, and you register it. We do not have to do that in Australia. So if you're not in Australia, make sure you check with your local performing rights organisation, your PRO, to find out what requirements there are. But in Australia, you don't have to do that. As soon as you create it, it is now copyrighted. Yeah.
Are there any obstacles that come up if somebody is working with somebody who is from another country that may have different copyright laws? Have you ever experienced that?
I don't really have. I would think no. Just still get a contract on that, and then register the song in your with your PRO. So that's your performing rights organisation. So in Australia, that's ASCAP or BMI. In America, that's ASCAP or BMI. In Australia, that's APRA. And just make sure you have your agreement there with this person in America owns 10%, I own 90%, great. But then they'll need to register it according to what's important in their country. But I don't have any particular experience with that.
Yeah. Okay. There's another question. Without taking revenue into consideration, how much can one expect to pay when producing an album?
Ooh. Okay, I'm trying to understand the question. To pay to produce it, like the cost of completing it?
We might need to take it that way. Maybe, Rebecca, if you'd like to clarify a little bit, then just pop it in the comments box.
Well, if I take it, so I'm happy to clarify, but if I take it on the idea of like how much is a good amount to pay to get an album made, then it really depends on the producer that you get to do it and their experience. So I paid about $1,500 a song for my producer to create. But that went through pre-production where we picked the songs. He helped me get the structure and the arrangement of the songs. Then he recorded them. I did get musicians in to pay to do that, and then he mixed it, and then we sent it off to be mastered. So it was about $1,650 per song, including mastering, which is at a higher end. He is worth it, and that's how much he charged. But you'll have mid-level producers, around $500 to $900 per song is a really good amount. But you do need to check and ask them what they do. Some people are just engineers and they just press record, but they don't mix it, they don't master it, and they don't actually help develop the song or help get the best out of you or the song. So you need to really ask questions. What does producing mean for you? What are you going to offer before you sign on the dotted line? Because if you're going in saying, okay, so what are we going to do? And the producer's like, well, I'm ready to record. And you're like, nope, I'm not. You just need to make sure, because every producer is different and the term producer can mean different things for different people. So,
yeah. Is there somewhere that you would recommend that someone can go if they're fresh to all of this and they're looking for a producer to produce their music? Is there somewhere where they can go and find out a little bit about who they should be looking for?
Well, I will shamelessly say the virtual music manager because we have a whole track, a whole training track dedicated to the create and release process. So it shows 12 months of how to, when you're first starting to think about your project, going through the pre-production, the production, the pre-launch, and then the launch sessions and seasons. And it talks about everything around, how to choose a producer, questions to ask. And then we also have in the background a creative partners list of a whole bunch of producers, photographers, graphic designers, grant writers, people that I think are great, who are going to take care of you. And so, as I said at the beginning, one of the most wasted time, not wasted time, but time draining things is the Googling of who and how and, where do I find these people? And so if I would recommend the virtual music manager, which opens at the end of August. But in the meantime, if you don't have that, if you're looking for a producer, there's two things that you can do and you go about it is you would reach out to people that you know who have released music and ask them who they worked with and whether they would recommend someone to work with them again, because they may go, I worked with them, but don't do it. I would never work with them again. Or they would say, yep, they're awesome. I'll give you their number. Yeah. Or look at some bands local to you whose albums you love, and then contact them and say, who produced your album, or go online and find out who produced them, and then listen to the other music that producer has done and get a sense of, is this the style that you're looking for? Is this the kind of music that you want to make? And then reach out to them and engage with them and have some further questions. So there are 2 ways that you can go about that.
Excellent. There's another question about, would you be happy to speak on the idea of mixing, like going to see a mixer or collaborating the instruments?
Yeah, again, my producer did the mixing as well. So that was part of the $1,500. Some producers, producers will ship off to a mixer. And I actually chatted with a producer recently for the VMM. And he said that depending on what the client needs, he will actually say, you know what, I will do the production stuff for you or record it, but I think what the type of music that you want to make is going to be best mixed by this person. And so then they'll farm that out. So what I'm seeing increasingly is that people are learning some basic skills on GarageBand or Pro Tools or other programs, and they're recording it themselves, and then they're sending it off to someone to mix for them. And that's totally fine. I think it's probably better to spend money on a mixer than to spend money on record it yourself and then send it off to be mixed, especially if there's a lot of electronic tracks, MIDI, that they can change around. But my biggest recommendation is that you should not do the whole process yourself. Because you're only going to hear and see and understand what you already know, and it's likely that it won't be cooked in the middle. So, yeah.
Excellent. Going back to the splits. So what formats of playing an artist's music would entitle? So once we've got our copyright splits all set up and established, what formats of playing the artist's music would then entitle them to start receiving royalties? Sorry, getting tongue twisted.
Sure, that's fine. Well, once you've registered your song so in Australia it's APRA, so it's called a PRO, a Performing Rights Organisation, and these are the people who look after the people who own the composition. So not the sound recording. So the sound recording is, so I can have compositions that haven't been recorded, but any song that I record has a composition royalty and a sound recording kind of royalty or revenue. And if you're a label, if you're signed with a label, usually they own the sound recording, but you own the composition revenue because you wrote the song. But because I'm an independent artist, I own everything. But there are some songs that I co-wrote with people, so the percentage of the copyright split for the composition is split between those people. So anytime the song is used, that the sound recording is used, it will incur a revenue and a royalty. So one of my songs is called Not Too Late. So anytime Not Too Late is played on, streamed on Spotify, I get my 6 cents or whatever, 0.6 cents. And then 91% of that 0.6 cents, 91% of it goes to the owner of the sound recording. And that is me, because I own it. And that comes through my distributor. So my online CD Baby, TuneCore, Ditto, whoever you uploaded your music to put on all the online stores, that's called your sound recording revenue, because I own the sound recording. If I was signed to a label, that money would go directly to my label, and then they would give me a percentage of that according to our agreement.
Yeah.
But I always receive, whether I'm signed or not signed, I always receive my 9% copyright royalty because I own the song. So whether maybe Karen, you recorded a version of my song. So you didn't write it, but you recorded it. So you get the 91% revenue from the person who owns the sound recording, but I always get my 9% copyright revenue, and APRA grab that from the revenue and they give that to me because I own the song.
Okay.
You own the recording, but I own the song. And so anytime it's played, streamed, performed, sold as a CD, anytime there's royalties that come through all of those things. And so anytime there's a remix and there's another version of it, I would get royalties from that. And so the more songs you can have out there, the more ways that it can get streamed every time it's played on commercial radio. So community radio is different because of the way that it's set up, but every time it's played on commercial radio, you get a revenue from that. And what else? I mean, there's hundreds of ways that you can get that, but the best way that you actually get that money is by being registered with APRA or your PRO and then having it distributed via your online distributor. And then that's the way that you get those two revenue streams. And then if someone plays your song live at a show, they should be filling in a performance report saying, I played a Coldplay song, I played 2 of my songs, I played a Kate Westwood song, blah, 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 blah. And then because my song is registered, then I get a 9 cents copyright royalty because they played my song. They didn't play the sound recording, but they played my composition. So it's very intense and complicated, this whole copyright thing. There's lots of things involved there.
So when you're looking at distributors to put that out there, what kind of is there kind of an average percentage that is taken out with distributors? Is that something that you need to look very closely at when you're choosing who you go with?
I think for a first release, they're all same, different. They all do exactly the same thing, and no one of them gets, there isn't a better one to go with because I'll be more on Spotify or I'll be more on Apple. No, it's just no matter which distributor you choose, they will put your music in the stores that you ask them to. But it doesn't put them on a higher shelf or get it more awareness on that platform. They all do the same job. They will charge you different amounts to have every year to have your single or your album or your EP registered and on the store. And some of them take a percentage of the revenue, but you just have to check and see. Some of them you can do it for free, and then they just take a 15% revenue, percentage. So maybe you're not planning on making much money. So you thought, well, rather than paying $40 a year, I don't know if I'm going to make $40 a year. It's really up to you. They're pretty much same, different. Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Is there anything else about the copyright splits that you'd like to share with the audience?
Let's just look at my notes. What my recommendation is that they're actually sitting down so like I did with Renee, I go down and we sit together and we write, that you just do the Nashville split, the Nashville standard, that everyone who contributes to the song in that period gets an equal split. Because what that's going to do is it's called generosity, it's called openness. You're not nitpicking about all the different things. Everyone is contributing, whether they're writing the music, whether they're doing the lyrics or the melody, whether they're figuring out a riff, whether they're the person doing, recording it all on the production thing. If you're contributing to the song being written, you get a split. And then people are going to want to write with you more and more. Make sure you get that agreement and get that written down. But I will say that if someone writes like a really recognizable riff, because a riff on a guitar or piano is actually a melody, maybe you're not singing the melody, but if you think Eye of the Tiger, dun, 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 like that's almost more recognizable than the lyrics and the melody of the song. And so if they didn't split it, that person, I would have said, you know what, I think because that's so iconic, you should get a split of the song because of that, even though it's the guitar, it's not actually the lyrics or the melody, if that makes sense. But I will say, to really make sure, one thing that I've come across is people going into a studio and then producers saying, well, because I produced the song for you, now I should be getting a split of the song. And the answer for me is pretty much no, that's not how it works. if you're paying your producer to do a job for you, whether they contribute to the arrangement, which is we're going to get the guitars to come here and we're going to have drums in this section, that's what arrangement is, or they say, no, let's do a double verse here and then we'll do a triple outro, or we'll go back to the intro here. That's the structure of the song. That is not songwriting. And so you need to know your rights, because I know there have been a lot of smaller artists who felt a bit bullied because the producer was part of helping them develop the song, but it wasn't actually the writing of the song, but they didn't understand the difference. So you need to make sure you understand the difference, and talk with your producer at the beginning about what their expectations are. With that, one of my songs on my album, it's called Not Too Late. Once I was figuring out all the splits and I'd recorded the songs with my producer, I realized, Joel, this song wasn't really anything until you jumped on board. The other ones had identities. The other ones were written. This song, I want to give you a split. And I gave him a 25% split because I just wanted to do that, because he made it into something amazing. But I wasn't required to do that. So just as a way about it, you need to know and understand. Don't get taken for a ride here. There's heaps of great information on the APRA AMCOS website if you're Australian. If you're not Australian, go and have a look at the PRO in your country. Make sure you understand about registering your songs if you need to. You don't need to send it in to yourself in the mail. There used to be a thing that people would do. If I send it via registered mail, it comes to me, then that legitimizes the copyright. No, that's not true. You don't even have to put the copyright symbol, the C. That just says that this person owns it, but it doesn't actually mean any more copyright. So there are some myths around that, but don't be ignorant. Make sure you know what your rights are. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. If anybody has any other questions, then please pop them in the comment box. Is there anything else that you'd like to discuss with us before we finish up, Kate?
I think probably the main thing that I didn't mention at the beginning, but in my experience being an indie artist, but also I'm chatting with indie artists every day, is that there is this widespread belief that being independent artist means that I'm an artist who has to do it by myself. And I'd really love to challenge that belief, because not only is that exhausting, and does that mean that then you have to be a singer and a songwriter, a musician, a producer, an engineer, a graphic designer, a photographer, a marketer, a social media manager, a PR person. Like, I'm tired and exhausted just naming, and that wasn't everyone that's involved in the process. But we often think independent means on our own. What it really means is you get to make the decisions yourself, but you should not be doing it on your own. And the reason I say that is something I'm really passionate about, is that we want people to pay for our music, right? We want people to come to our shows and support Aussie music, and we get frustrated if there's not that. But then we're not willing to hire a graphic designer to do our album cover for $500, or we're not willing to to pay a musician what they're worth to come and play really well on our album. I think that that's a really shallow and naive way of looking at it. And really, my desire is that we would be supporting everyone in our communities, that, you know what, when I create my album, it's not just me going, look at what I did, but I'm in a room of 60 people who said, look what we did together. Look what we all contributed in some way to making this beautiful, and that everyone gets an opportunity to grow and develop. And then people will actually care about what you've done, rather than going, okay, cool, see ya. I wasn't a part of it. Why should I care? And that happens all the time. And that makes me sad, because it doesn't have to be that way. But it's that way often because we think, as an independent artist, I'm meant to do it myself. You can, but you shouldn't.
Yeah. All right. Would you like to share just again where people can find you if they're looking to work with you, or just to talk to you, or follow your social media?
Yeah, every month I have 10 spots. I call it it's like a free catch up where we just get to know each other. We get to kind of connect around what you're doing. And if I feel like there's some of my free resources or the things that I do that would be a help or a support, or maybe if I feel like, oh, I'd really love to work with you on a management level, I'll let you know about that. So that happens every month. But they go to Westwood Management on both Instagram and Facebook. It's how you can chat with me. You can DM me, send me a message, send me an email. I'd love to connect with you. I can sign you up for one of those free catch-ups. But also the Virtual Music Manager is coming out at the end of this month. So stay tuned. It's virtualmusicmanager.com/waitlist. And that's how you can find out about it. It's really inexpensive. It's $87 a month. You get amazing training and input. Plus you get coaching every month, which is, I think, what's going to make the difference for most people. So I would love for you to be interested in that and find out about that. But either way, you can still get heaps of free resources by being a part of my email list. So
fantastic. It's been an absolute honor to chat with you, Kate, and to get to know you today and talk about everything songwriting, collaborations, and copyright splits. So
yeah.
Copyright splits.
Not copyright. Yeah.
Obviously got coffee on my mind.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing what happens next with you.
Love what you're doing with Sounds on the Couch. We'll definitely be encouraging and supporting that. And really at this point in the world is we just get to support. If the more we can support one another and not be concerned about who's going to get the step up, but just really give everyone a chance to grow together. And I love that you're doing that. So well done. And can't wait to see what you do next.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kate.
Thanks, guys.